In this topic, let's talk about how we roll back table and data changes, which are typically more complex than other changes. Now, tables represent a unique problem for rollbacks because we have to maintain the state of their data. As we've looked at this previously, the data in the table and the structure has to be transitioned during a deployment, or it certainly would have to be transitioned during a rollback as well. Some changes may be simple to roll back, some may be complex. So for this reason, I really haven't ever seen a good way of automatically undoing table changes. And maybe more importantly, I'm not sure I would trust any tool to actually undo these changes for me. For example, if I had a new column, it might be causing issues in the system, right? Inserts or updates may fail. Certainly I can fix that with the drop column statement, but what if some time has passed? What if there's data stored in this new column? What's the proper way to handle it? Do we save the data? Do we just delete it? What do we do? What if we've actually performed a column split or a table split? In that case, I've moved the data to separate areas. It might not be easy to recombine it and get it back to its original state. There may be custom code involved. It may be a problem we can solve, but it's something we have to deal with, something we have to be prepared to work with, and it's not always easy to roll that back. What's more, some of these changes could take significant time in large databases. There's certainly table changes. I may add a table and update values to a default value, and if I have a billion rows, that takes significant time. If I'm choosing to undo that, to roll that back with another change, it might take a significant amount of time. It could take hours. In that case, I have to decide. Maybe a database restore is a better way to undo the changes. These are decisions that the database administrator or the operations staff have to make once the deployment fails or once they decide a rollback is needed. Ultimately, whatever you choose, it's going to be situation dependent. Smaller, more frequent changes might limit potential issues, might make it easier to roll back, but whenever we make some sort of table change, some sort of schema change that has to maintain state, developers and operations staff have to consider the ways in which they might undo the changes and be prepared to respond. Typically, we might pre-write scripts and test those in QA, or we might have a restore ready. Maybe we've taken a snapshot and we're ready to revert immediately, but we should be prepared and have some way to respond to table changes before they happen. Some deployments might also change data in our database. Perhaps we alter lookup or reference data, it's altered in release. Maybe we alter transactional data and there's substantial changes. Maybe we've moved data from one type to another or between one column to another one. Just as with doing table changes, rolling back data manipulations can be very difficult, and sometimes the transformations make it impossible to do, especially when they're very complex. So part of our release process often should back up our existing data. Not necessarily a full database backup, but just the data that we're going to change. Let's copy that to another place so that if we have issues, copying that back might be the quickest way to restore production rather than a full backup or a full restore. Any scripts we write, though, we want to make sure we're testing these intermediate environments. They don't necessarily have to be part of our release process, but part of our manual testing process should ensure that after a release to QA or to staging, we run our script and see if we can undo the changes. Table changes and data changes, it may not be worth scripting these rollbacks. Typically, the process is complex and we don't use the rollback often enough, so we might actually choose to roll forward with additional changes or just back up and restore for the few times we actually have to make that choice. In any case, having a pre-deployment backup and a pre-written script or at least a plan ready is very important when you're deploying table and data changes.